All right, so this meeting is now now streaming live on Facebook.
Excellent. We're good to go then.
Yay.
Thanks, Nikki. So hello, everybody, and welcome to day 10 of Freedom from Anxiety in Uncertain Times. And this morning, I have another lovely lady to introduce to you. I have Nikki Davidson here with me this morning. And Nikki is from A Mind Place, and she's also a Little Peace of Mind practitioner. So we didn't have any questions in overnight, so I'm going to go straight over to chat with Vicky. So Vicky, do you want to say hello and maybe introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here. So yeah, my name's Nikki Davison. I just really briefly, I'm a qualified psychotherapist, but also a Little Peace of Mind coach. And my personal kind of journey, although that just seems like such a cliche, is I suffered with anxiety for over 20 years. That was kind of what drove me to leave teaching and become a psychotherapist in the first place. I'd had some counselling myself and it had been quite helpful. And so I thought, okay, this is amazing. I want to go and do something like this and be able to help people. That was just the start of this really long, at times painful journey of searching and trying, searching to find the solution, trying to fix myself.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and spending a lot of money in that process and having lots of ups and downs. The thing that didn't change is the anxiety. The anxiety didn't ever go anywhere. It was still there. And every time I kind of found the new next thing, there would be like that feeling of hope that this is the thing.
Yeah.
And then that feeling of kind of disappointment when the anxiety came back. And my anxiety kind of was, I guess, like if you were going to die, if it was going to have a diagnosis, it would have been generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
Because it was about everything, really. Being a mum, being a wife, working, and being like thinking that I was just really crap at what I did, and all of that insecurity, going out, eating out, food, holiday. I mean, literally every aspect of life was an anxiety fueled experience.
That's not fun.
No. And then kind of similar to Jan, really, and some of the other people that have been on here, I kind of came into this sort of understanding, the three principles understanding, and heard something different. I heard in the beginning a very famous, Dr. Bill Pettit say, that kind of famous line of nothing broken, nothing to fix. And the relief that there was a possibility that maybe I was okay, that maybe I was normal, that maybe I wasn't the freak of nature that I thought I was. And that kind of was the start of this long journey in seeing things for myself, and then seeing more for myself, and then doing the training, and then getting to a place now where I share kind of what I've seen and what's been helpful to me to the people that I work with. And it's funny, like recently I've been quite reflective about the last 20 years, because at times in that time, a lot of that time, I would feel like life hadn't been fair, and like I'd been dealt some really shitty cards, and everyone else seemed to be out there living life and I wasn't. And I missed out on things in the lives of my children and my life because of anxiety. Recently I'm kind of thinking, I'm not sure that I would be able to do the work that I do now had I not tried everything in the book.
Yeah.
To the, training to be a psychotherapist, and then going on courses for meditation and mindfulness, and having CBT and hypnotherapy and EMDR and like literally everything. It's kind of like, maybe, I don't know who said this. I've heard you say this, Jan. We are, and we always are, exactly where we need to be, and we can be in resistance to that and not like it.
Yeah, I know that one too.
Yeah, but it seems to me, this is what I'm kind of experiencing now. It's like, I think I had to experience all those things and try all those things so that I can now sit in this chair and speak from the heart and from personal experience, having walked in the shoes of my clients, that that this is what works, this is what's helpful.
It's so interesting, because I'm of the same opinion that if I hadn't gone through everything that I had gone through, and I had all those experiences, and even studied with all these different teachers and different modalities along the way, then I wouldn't be who I am today. And I wouldn't have the experience that allows me to come into this space in an authentic way, because I've been that person.
Yeah,
that's been my experience too, and it's the same with you. And for such a long time, I used to think, even as I was building different trainings along the way, I used to think, but sure, I'm still suffering. If I can't help myself, how can I help anybody else? I have nothing to offer. And that's not true.
Yeah, that's so true, Jan. I used to think that too. But yeah, like you, now I see that actually, no, that's not true. And
it looks true.
Yeah, it does. Of course it does. And the more you're in resistance to that, kind of reflecting on that and noticing that kind of puts me in a position now where, if I'm not having an experience that I like, and if something is happening in my life that I'm unhappy with and don't want, I'm a little more able to kind of navigate it, because I can see that there's a possibility I am having this experience for a very good reason, and I won't know what that is, and that's not my job. So just to kind of navigate that with grace and ease as best I can.
We don't know where anything that's going on in our experience right now is taking us.
Yeah.
And I often tell a story about my youngest son. He was mad into computer games as a teenager, and we used to have an awful job trying to get him off the computer, and loved gaming, and he was on with people in different countries, playing strategy games and taking over the world, and loved it. But we were a bit concerned at the amount of time he was spending on it. Thinking, this isn't good, he needs to be studying and he's got to do his exams and all the rest of it. And he was one of these kids that used to say, I'm just going to go to college and I'm going to be there for 5 years and I'm going to come out with my PhD and I'll be done with college. And that's just the way it's going to be for me. And he dropped out in the first year. So he didn't know that was coming either. And when he dropped out, he went and got a job in a call center. And the skills in a call center are, you're on the phone with customers and you're reading information on a screen. And lo and behold, when he was still in that job, he applied to be an air traffic controller, and which worked out wonderfully for him, thank God, and that's what he works in now. But the recruitment process took 12 months for that particular role. And the first few months, he was going up to Dublin regularly to take all these assessments to see if they were a good fit. And every time he'd come home, I'd say to him, how was it? And he'd start explaining it to me, and I'd be lost after the first 30 seconds. I couldn't even grapple what he was saying. He was high as a kite, like thinking this was wonderful, and I just couldn't understand it. But it turned out that all of these tests, he was on computers in airports with planes, maneuvering them around and making them take off and making them land and going through different obstacles. And all the time they were getting instructions through headphones So he had already developed the computer skills, the gaming skills, the
Yeah.
skill of being on the phone and answering questions and, looking at a computer. That was an advantage to him.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't have ever thought that those skills were going to come into play or be useful in his career. We were worried sick about the amount of time he was on the computer. So you just don't know.
Yeah. And you know what comes with that, Jan, is like, if we don't ever know, right, and we're not in control, some kind of greater power is in control, actually it kind of relinquishes us from the responsibility of thinking that we're in control and thinking that. So, imagine the peace of mind that you would have had you had that understanding in those years, that you could have gone, okay, like, I might not like the fact that he's on the computer all the time, but I'm just going to trust that we are where we're meant to be.
And it's happening for a reason, and it's on some sort of
Yeah.
trajectory that I can't see.
Yeah, and I can imagine, like, I've got children myself, and I all of I can think of so many times where I'm kind of, they're doing something and I'm thinking or saying, no, it can't be like this. You can't, and the stress and the worry and the anxiety.
Yeah. And we're not in control.
Mm.
And I think, when I first realized that there wasn't relief, I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared of living in the unknown, and I didn't like the feeling of not being out of being out of control, because that's what it felt like. If I'm not in control, then I'm out of control, and I felt kind of rudderless and shaky, and it really bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
But when my thinking settled about it, and I actually looked a bit deeper and did a bit of self-inquiry, I could see the value of it, and the relief that was in it. And we do have just take our hands off and let life flow on, because it does anyway.
Yeah.
And we just slow it down with our resistance. So no,
it's like releasing that vice-like grip on life. And the thing that I find quite funny is, I was like a complete control freak in everything, controlling everything, because I thought innocently that that's what kept me safe. And it is scary when you kind of start to see that you're not in control, and to let go a little bit. But like you say, the relief, that's just one less thing on your to-do list, isn't it?
I mean, that's been one of the biggest things for me, Nikki, is there's so much more space in my head than there used to be.
Yeah.
It's not as cluttered.
Yeah.
It does get cluttered from time to time and get busy from time to time, but there's just so much space. And I have so much time available to me that I didn't have before. So much time that I was just caught up in here that I can now actually be in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I can enjoy it more because I'm more relaxed. And just be with it. I mean, that's been a huge change for me. I had so much crap in my head all of the time that was where I lived. I didn't live in life. And now I do.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's something about that, like what I see with what I'm seeing with clients, and what I see, there's something about that habitual, unhelpful thinking so it's unhelpful because we're not in control, and it's not on us, and it doesn't make us feel great. But there's something that pulls us back to that because it feels familiar. There's something that kept me trying to keep control of my family and myself and my experience.
Yeah.
But it was all just a lie. It was all just a movie. It was none of it was ever real.
No. And that's the beauty, is when you see that that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like Angus Ross talks about the Netflix movie all the time.
Yes.
And that we're just watching Netflix movies playing out in our head.
Yeah. How do you so for people that might be watching this, who are living in their Netflix movie, who keep going back to the same box set, and re-watching, even though they decided they don't like it,
like how
it almost becomes second nature to go to that box set, get it out, watch it, have the experience
Yeah.
that you don't like. You know, I think I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges I have with clients
Okay.
is to get them to see, firstly, get them to see that it's not helpful and it's not real. And secondly, get them to see that you don't have to, you don't have to press select.
Yeah. You can swipe.
Yeah. You know, there are so many other experiences. There are so many other box sets
Yeah.
in Netflix. There are so many other things that you can go and watch that are going to make you feel so much happier and lighter.
Yeah.
You don't have to, like, you don't have to take your thinking seriously.
No. Well, you know, it's interesting because I was talking about the Einstein quote one day.
The one where, like,
The
go on.
faith, the gift, and the servant.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's another Einstein quote that I love. I don't know the exact words, but it's something about that the gift he values most in his life is the gift of fantasy, and that means more to him than anything he's ever learned from a book. And when we're watching the horror shows, we're using that gift of fantasy to create horror movies and horror fantasies instead of creating things that we would like and that would make us feel good. And as you say, there's endless channels on Netflix, there's endless movies, there's endless box sets. And if you don't like one, swipe on and keep going.
Yeah.
But when we don't know that that's what's happening,
Yes.
we don't have the choice.
Yeah, when you don't know that that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of, you know, when you live in that constant state of anxiety and fear and stress and worry, you think that that's all that's available. You think that's all that's on the menu.
Yes. And you think other things or people or circumstances have to be different for you to be okay.
Yeah.
And that the movie has to be different for you to be okay. And what I saw very clearly is I'm always okay. And there are always movies.
Yeah. That's really cool.
You know, sometimes I'd invite people to, you know, when they've got something really busy in their mind, to just imagine that they're at the movies and that, you know, they're watching this play out on a big screen in front of them. Because if they're the person sitting in the seat watching the movie, then the movie can't be you.
Do you know, I had like the biggest insight about that. I don't know if I've shared with you this, but I call it my Bambi insight. Have I told you about this?
I don't think so. Go on.
Okay, so like in the very beginning, in this understanding, I remember hearing the kind of the analogy, the story of the mood, you know, so there's a separateness between us and what's playing.
Yes.
And whatever the movie is, it can't actually hurt us, it can't dent us, it can't change us. We're kind of like solid.
Yeah.
When I was 5 or 6, I think, the first film that I ever went to see at the cinema was Bambi. My mum took me. I know. And just to give it a little bit of context, so I grew up with just my mum. I never knew my dad, so it was just my mum and I. And from a very, I kind of, my mum was very unstable and she kind of struggled with parenting, and so I kind of had to grow up quite quickly, and I took on responsibilities that I probably shouldn't have at that age, and I had thinking about stuff that I probably shouldn't have. I worried. My biggest fear was that if something happened to my mum, I would be an orphan, because we had no other family and I'd end up in a children's home. This was like, you know, this was my fear. So we go to watch Bambi, and like I actually haven't ever watched it since, because I can't watch it. But Bambi's mum gets shot right at the very beginning. Okay. And actually it kind of gives me goosebumps just thinking about it now. For me, that was just horrific. So I went from, even at that young age, I went from seeing that was a cartoon deer and a mummy deer and a cartoon baby deer, to like me, like, oh, imagining what that would feel like if I lost my mum and I was on my own, right? And I was inconsolable, and I sobbed loudly to the point where my mum had to take me out of the cinema and take me home.
Oh,
We got home and I sobbed more. I went to my bed. I stayed in my bedroom. I just couldn't stop crying because I made that movie my own.
yeah.
Okay, so then kind of fast forward a million years, like the cinema kind of, you know, what we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
And then one day it was just like I struggled and suffered with that movie as a small child. And the only reason I struggled and suffered was nobody told me it was just a movie.
Yeah.
My mum didn't sit me down and go, Nicola, that's not real.
Oh.
That never happened. It's just a story. And if she had, I think that would have given me some comfort because I believed it to be real. I could, yeah. And it's exactly the same when, you know, a disturbing, upsetting, anxiety provoking movie is playing. We get sucked into that and we make it our own story. We forget that
It's a story.
And we forget that separateness between the story and us, and we believe the story to be real.
Yeah, that's a really big one.
Yeah.
I think that might be a lovely place to leave it for today.
Oh my goodness, that's gone so quickly.
I know, it's 25 past already. Can you imagine? Yeah. We never said hello. So Liz is saying hello, Jan and Nikki.
Hi.
Here, Kay is here, Tina's here. So hi everyone.
Hi. Nice to see you all. Nice to meet you all.
Here. Yeah. So we might pick this up again in a couple of weeks if you're open to coming back before the end of the month.
Oh my God, I'd absolutely love it.
Yeah, fabulous. No, that'd be wonderful. So
thanks, Jan. Thanks for inviting me.
For taking time out of your day to share. And it's been fabulous chatting with you as always.
Oh, thank you.
I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.
Have a good day, everybody. And thanks for joining us. Love to all.
See you. Bye.
Bye.